What's up, you guys? It's Steve here, and some pretty shocking news coming out today on progress on potential standalone bills for stimulus. And this is your stimulus update. Now, take a look, you guys. This is actually coming from GOP Republicans. Mitt Romney's push to revive the child tax credit hinges on work requirements. So they're saying they want to have a modified child tax credit come out on its own bill. They want to modify it to have it so that way it is required that parents work to receive this. And it says the Republican senator said several Democrats have expressed interest and spoken with him about his proposal, which includes key differences from the previous tax credit. Now, we will see, you guys. It sounds like Republicans could be getting on board for this, as they could have something to help out families as we're still going through the pandemic. Now, we had Senator Joe Manchin. He opposed the Build Back Better bill and stopping that from going through the process of reconciliation, which is a majority vote from Democrats at this time. And we're hearing, though, there could be bipartisanship for a standalone bill for the child tax credit. Now, we will see. I'm going to share with you the articles coming out on this today, and also some video footage on this, as well as other conservative perspectives on this. We're going to be hearing from Ron Paul, who's saying, listen, we need to stop all of the stimulus provisions. There's been too much spending going out, and it's causing massive inflation. And he talks about some previous inflation that we had before and how interest rates had to go up significantly higher than where they currently are. And he's saying, brace yourself if we keep dishing out more federal spending. So you guys, we're going to dive right in. I've got some video footage to let you know about child tax credit standalone bills, and we'll be seeing. I will keep you up to date on that, as well as the Build Back Better negotiations and also potential stimulus provisions that could come from that leftover $800 billion that we have from previous stimulus packages. It's already been spent, but it's just sitting there. It hasn't gone out to anything. People are saying you could use them for stimulus checks. Now, we will see. I will keep you up to date here on the channel. But you guys, let's go ahead and dive right in. And let's start off first by smashing that like button for the YouTube algorithm. Just takes a second. Really helps out my channel a ton. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Also, leave your comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts on all this. Share this out if you think it's going to help out other people. If this is your first time here and you want to stay up to date, totally free to do so. All you got to do is hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell. And if you got any specific questions for me, I'm easy to get a hold of directly. All you got to do is hop on Instagram, shoot me a DM at SteveRam3. But with that being said, you guys, let's go ahead and dive right in. And let's start off first with this video footage of a new standalone bill from Mitt Romney.
There's fresh optimism this morning for those hoping to revive the expanded child tax credit. Republican Senator Mitt Romney is pushing a new version of the bill, one that he hopes could gain support from both sides of the aisle. NBC's Ali Vitale has more on that. So, Ali, walk us through Senator Romney's new proposal, and does it have a chance?
Yeah, look, Joe, this comes against the backdrop of what Steph just laid out. We were already seeing inflation at grocery stores, higher prices because of supply chain issues that stemmed from the pandemic. The child tax credit was one of the things done early on in the pandemic by Congress to help alleviate that financial strain for Americans. Of course, it lapsed at the end of last year when Congress couldn't come to consensus to extend it along with the rest of Biden's Build Back Better agenda. But now there is some renewed momentum here in Congress on the Republican side of the aisle. Senator Mitt Romney, one of those Republicans, coming forward with his own plan. This one includes strict work requirements, as well as slashing programs that aid vulnerable Americans, as well as proposing making significant changes to the tax codes. Some of those things could be sticking points for Democrats. But that being said, Romney just last week with reporters said he was in the preliminary phases of discussions with some Democrats on this, trying to come to some consensus on doing the child tax credit as a standalone bill in a bipartisan fashion. We know that in terms of Build Back Better, that is stalled and remains very quiet here. But on the child tax credit, one of the key people that we regularly talk to about this was Senator Joe Manchin. He has made clear that he wants to see a work requirement in this if it were to go forward. So that could be a point of commonality as we look ahead here. There are also other Democratic senators who point out that this is a program that slashed child poverty in this country during the several months that it was in effect. Now, a study from January, the month after those those checks stopped coming showed that 3.7 million more kids in America were in poverty. And we've seen these things break down along racial lines before. Black and brown kids were more impacted in that study as we saw the rise in child poverty. So clearly an impact of the program that slashed child poverty and then is no longer in effect as Americans still grapple with what it means to not get those checks every month.
So there you have it, you guys. Now, we're going to be hearing from Ron Paul here in just a second, who has a very different opinion about federal spending, as you know. However, we're now seeing articles coming out like this due to Mitt Romney's standalone proposal for child tax credits. And the article says, over the past few months, Senator Mitt Romney of Utah, he has quietly pushed for a Republican-friendly version of the expanded child tax credit that he hopes could gain bipartisan support. His proposal would bring back the direct monthly payments many parents used for 6 months last year to cover the costs of food, clothing, and childcare before Congress let the tax credit expire. But Romney's form of extra monthly payments would add stringent work requirements, slash programs that aid vulnerable Americans, and make significant changes to the tax codes. Now, while the additional work requirements and the reduced safety net programs could be a tough pill for Democrats to swallow, even before they consider the sticky issues of tax reform, a bipartisan bill might be the only way for the expanded child tax credit to land on President Joe Biden's desk. Romney has largely worked with fellow Republicans on his plan, but conversations with Democrats have increased in the last few months or so, a senior GOP aide familiar with the proposal has said. I think momentum is growing quite a bit, and there's more interest because folks on the right want to do something. And I think that folks on the left are realizing that if they don't do it bipartisan, it's not going to happen. Now, it's unclear right now if Democrats are going to be receptive to Mitt Romney's proposal. However, jumping down, listen to this. Senator Michael Bennet had this to say. As I've said in the past, work requirements don't work, as study after study has shown. We shouldn't punish children simply because their families are struggling to find work, particularly during a pandemic. Now, the tax credit debate hasn't made much strides on the Democratic side. However, as Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia, a key vote for Democrats, remains opposed to reviving the previous policies. So, Senator Joe Manchin, as you know, said that he was not for the way that it was written in the Build Back Better bill, and he's the one that said, as it stands, Build Back Better, in his opinion, is dead. It needs to be modified significantly, and the child tax credit, he said, was one of the provisions that needed to be changed. And among Manchin's top concerns, which Democrats have said they can't satisfy, is that people who aren't working might receive the benefit. So he said you need to be working to receive the child tax credit. Manchin has told reporters that any expanded child tax credit should include a work requirement, and he floated an income limit of $75,000 or less. So you need to be working and you need to make under $75,000, according to the West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin. So we will see. Right now, Senator Mitt Romney is floating a standalone proposal, and we'll see if Republicans and Democrats support this for bipartisan support. And if that's the case, it makes Joe Manchin's stance a little bit less important because they might be able to get enough votes to pass it without his approval. So we will see. I will keep you up to date, but very interesting to hear of this standalone provision, child tax credits, possibly getting support on both sides of the aisle. However, as you know, not everybody is in favor of passing more federal aid and provisions, and they're concerned about inflation and debt at this time. And one of those is Senator Ron Paul. And I'm going to be sharing with you what he had to say on this and what he's warning people to prepare for in the form of combating inflation with increased interest rates. Take a look at what he had to say.
One of the things that's come out of the pandemic is we spent tons of money. We just spent trillions of dollars and we don't have it. So we had to borrow that money. As we borrowed that money, then the Federal Reserve prints more money, and that money floods into the circulation and it devalues what we have. What does that mean? Higher prices. So when you go to the grocery store and you see the rising prices of vegetables, fruits, everything, and especially meat, it's because we spent too much money. We borrowed too much money. When you go to the gas station and you fill up your car, and it costs almost 50% more than it did the year before, that's because of inflation. Inflation comes from the government borrowing money, the Federal Reserve printing it up, and stealing the value of your dollar. So it's a bait and switch. One political party says, here's free stuff. You can have free stuff. I'll give you a $1,400 check, and it's free. Believe me, you don't have to do anything for it. Well, there is a cost. The cost is inflation. That's what we're seeing now. But as we found in the 1970s, when inflation rears its head and gets cooking, inflation can get out of control and it's hard to stop. The only way that Volcker and the Federal Reserve ultimately stopped inflation in the late 70s, early 80s, they let interest rates go to 21%. Imagine what that does to people. If you live in a house right now and you have an adjustable mortgage, how many people could survive 21%? What happens to the national debt? We have a $30 trillion debt and we're paying it at about 2% now. What if it goes to 10%, 15 or 20%? I don't know how we would afford it. Will it squeeze out Social Security? Will it squeeze out Medicare? So we have to resist this notion of something for nothing.
Wow. Let me know your thoughts, you guys. If interest rates soared up that high, that would be unbelievable. It would totally just transform our economy overnight. Now, we'll see, because hopefully they would gradually bring that up, but still, there will be impacts felt if interest rates creep up that high. So I will keep you up to date here on the channel, but we're hearing that right now inflation is at an all-time high. We've got some supply chain issues. We're going to be seeing if they're going to be providing more federal assistance and spending. And also we are hearing that we are on the verge of war as well, which is spooking the markets as well. So you guys, a lot unfolding. I'll keep you up to date on everything here on the channel. And as always, thank you so much for joining me. If you made it this far and you haven't already, don't forget, take a quick second, smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. Helps out my channel a ton, just takes a second. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Also, leave your comments, share this out. If you want to stay up to date, totally free, you can come join the Bram fam. All you got to do is hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell, and if you got any specific questions for me, you can reach me directly, very easily. All you got to do is hop on to Instagram, shoot me a DM at SteveRam3. But with that being said, you guys, thank you so much again for joining me, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. God bless. This is Steve.